Hey leaders, thank you for joining this week's podcast. I am your host, Coach Payne, and this is the Happy Leader Podcast. This week's episode is really exciting. We're talking about how you cannot scale chaos, but instead you need to create systems in leadership that will allow you to lead more efficiently and more effectively. So let's jump right in. Now, before we get started with this conversation, I got a little bit of a trigger alert for you guys. So if you have to touch everything, it's not a business, it's a bottleneck. And if you feel like you are using the system and the system is your brain, and that's your only system, then you, my friend, are headed for burnout. And you can check out more about burnout on a previous week's episode. It should have been week 1, episode 1, about burnout, so we can avoid that, right? But today we're talking about systems. And in leadership, sometimes, to be honest, it can probably feel like you're juggling dynamite and it's just going to take one more bit of it for all of it to fall into a chaotic, combustible mess. But you don't have to stay there. When you're leading from your happy place, you can lead well by establishing systems. So I want to start with definitions. Y'all know I like the definitions. So we already know what systems are, and everyone listening and watching, if you're on the YouTube channel, can define a system, right? But I found this really interesting definition from Merriam-Webster, and it's my favorite one so far because it uses a couple of different words for a system that I had not yet used before developing this episode. So listen up. Merriam-Webster defines a system as an assemblage of items that lead to equilibrium. So putting things together so that equilibrium is the outcome. Now that's a good definition. So what we're learning today, what we're talking about, is how systems can help you manage the chaos of leadership. And remember, I'm talking about leading in your home, in your workplace, in school, leading yourself. But something that leaders should practice is developing systems. There's plenty of books and things out there about systems. I have not read any of them yet, but I will. To get into a mindset of thinking systemically. Now, I'm not talking about automating your brain so that decision in, same outcome out, no matter what. That's not what we're talking about. And you're a fan of this leadership journey with me, so I know you know that that's far from the leadership style that you and I support. But I do have 3 or 4 systems that I think leaders should master in order to, one, multiply yourself, which is the goal of leadership. You want to be multiplied in different variations and different sections of whomever you're leading, especially if it's a team, so then you can get more outcome. But then also, leaders should develop these systems for your own sanity, right? Because inherently leading is chaotic. Even if you're leading a team of 1, you're leading yourself, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of pieces and parts that are moving if you're leading. And so I want to share with you and talk about 4 different systems that I think you should master or at least evaluate in your own leadership explorations. Now, there are tons of systems, but I'm giving 4, and we're talking about these 4. The first one is an administrative system. The administrative system, I'm not talking about simply keeping notes and records and calendars, although that is extremely important because every leader that's in the circles I'm in, we operate off of our calendar. So whoever has the calendar has the control over our time. So that is inherent in leadership, and it's important. But I'm talking about more of the administrative portion of balancing authority with time. And that's what I think when I think administrative system. So I'm talking about what system can you create to protect decision space? Because as a leader, you need to have the headspace to make those decisions. And if you have an administrative system that takes care of some of that work so then you can have the headspace, then I think you're on to a good path. A second system I think leaders should do well to master is communications. I mean, we could talk for eons about the importance of effective communication, why communication fails, and all these examples that we have in our personal lives, in industry, and other professions about an effective communication system. So an effective communication system is definitely worth all the time it takes to manage one and to create one. Okay, this is a moment of confession. Have y'all ever played the telephone game? You know, where you have a group of people and you start with one, you say something, and then by the end of everyone repeating that same something through a succession of others, it gets back to you. And what you said is not what was said back to you. So in my leadership journey, I have done this several times with my immediate level of leadership. That's the level below where I am in the organization. And I am happy that what got back to me in the end was very close to what I said, but I think some factors went into that and it still was similar, but it wasn't exact. So some factors went into me getting those outcomes that are not common. One, I was dealing with a group of people who were at the top of the organization who were also used to communicating with their teams in a similar way. And so they were just dynamic leaders. And then I also prepared them that, hey, I want to test out something, and that put them on alert. So I don't know that outcome of getting back something very similar to what you said is normal, but I do know that game is not really a game, it's a metric, and it can tell you how effectively you are being heard and how clearly you're speaking your intentions. It was just funny. So I think a good communication system is one that works like a computer, where data comes in, data is analyzed, data is processed, and an output in the same language that the data went in, it comes out, right? You have an output that matches the language of what went in. Language and communication is imperative, but we're gonna stop right there for now so we can go through some of these other systems. The other system, I have two more for y'all, but this third one that I really believe leaders should master is a decision system, a process by which you integrate components so that you reach equilibrium in solid decisions. So I have two different thoughts about that. One is you can have a systemic decision process whereby one thing goes in, the same thing comes out, usually always. And I know that's not a real thing to say usually always, but usually always. And there's a place for those type of decision systems. I think, for instance, when the organization I'm in, when there's a discipline matter, then I think that there is a normal information comes in, information is addressed, information comes out, because certain matters of discipline already have outcomes tied to the consequence of those decisions. Now, I don't mean that you never calculate and adjust your automated decision systems, but I do mean that maybe one way to overcome the thought that leaders spend 80% of their time on 20% of the problems, I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a smart way to lead, and I know we can do better. One of the ways a decision system helps with that is, for instance, certain actions get certain consequences all the time. And so whenever those instances arise, then you follow that automated decision process and you keep pressing. Then you have another decision-making system you can create that allows you greater space to make deeper, more complex decisions. So for instance, some of the things I put in place when I'm making more complex decisions that made my decision system effective is, one, I invite the counsel of wise others in my decision-making opportunities most of the time. Not every time. I don't want groupthink, but I do want to have enough wise inputs that I can make a sound decision. Because if you heard me talk about leadership before, I lead in a team. Like, you have to lead in a team. Even if you're leading your family, you have to lead in a team. There's a proverb that I learned years ago, and it stuck with me. And it says, if you want to go far, go alone. Oh, no, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, bring a team. And so bringing a team, it multiplies you again. And I keep a team close by me who understands that they can tell me honest feedback about this decision, and I will hear them, I will consider it, and I will come out with a solid decision, more solid than if I don't decide in a group.